All right, let's find the extrema of this function. So it doesn't say global extrema, but that's what it's talking about. So we're going to find the global extrema. Now remember, we have max or min anytime where f prime of x equals 0 or f prime of x, and I'll actually write this over here, f prime of x is undefined. So first let's find f prime of x. F prime of x is 2/3 times 3x to the 1/3, negative 1/3, minus 2, so that equals 2x to the negative 1/3 minus 2. So that's f prime of x. Now we need to figure out where is this equal to 0 and where is it undefined. So we're going to set this equal to 0. And I think we're going to write it as a fraction, actually, because I know we almost never write these as fractions, but in this case it's actually going to be a little bit easier to see. So this is really 2 over x to the 1/3 minus 2. So where is this equal to 0? Well, we add 2 to both sides and we get 2 equals 2 over the cube root of 3 of not 3 of x. The cube root of x. Okay, then we multiply both sides by the cube root of x. And we divide both sides by 2. And we have the cube root of x equals 1. And then we cube both sides and we get x equals 1. So our derivative is equal to 0 at x equals 1. So that is one critical number. Let's find the other critical number. Where is this derivative undefined? Okay. So that's where it's equal to 0. Let's figure out where it's undefined. Well, again, let's write it as a fraction. So f prime of x equals 2 over x to the 1/3 minus 2. And so where is this undefined? Well, it's undefined anywhere that we're dividing by 0 or where we're taking the square root of a negative number. So we just look at this and say, would we ever be dividing by 0 or taking the square root of the negative number? Well, when x equals 0, if x equals 0, then we would divide by 0. That's not allowed. It's illegal in math. So f prime of x is undefined at x equals 0. So we have another critical number at x equals 0. So these are our two critical numbers. And then we also want to find the extrema at the endpoints. Remember, when we're looking for absolute extrema, we're looking at any of the critical numbers, so any of the peaks and valleys inside of the function, or we're also looking at the endpoints because those could also be critical number, or those could also be absolute extrema. So let's see that one. There we go. Okay, so we have critical numbers at x equals 1, x equals 0, and then we have endpoints at x equals negative 1 and x equals 3. So let's check what the values for each of these numbers is and see which one has the highest and the lowest values. So what is the function equal to when x equals 1? You know, let's actually just go from biggest to smallest, or smallest to biggest. So when the function is equal to negative, or when x is equal to negative 1, what is the function equal to? Well, that would be 3 times negative 1 to the 2/3 minus 2 times negative 1. So negative 1 to the 2/3 is negative 1 squared, and the cube root of that is still 1. And then times 3 is 3. Plus 2 is 5. So f of negative 1 is 5. F of 0 is 0. That's easy. f of 1. When x equals 1, what is our y equal to? Well, it would be 3 minus 2, which equals 1. And when we have an endpoint at 3, so when f equals 3, we have 3 times 3 to the 2/3 minus 2 times 3. Well, 3 squared is 9, and the cube root of 9 we don't have, so it's not like a nice, easy, pretty number. So we have 3 times the cube root of 9 minus 6. Okay, so these are our 4 values. So these are all of our candidates, right? Our candidates for max or min or for extrema are going to be -1, 0, 1, and 3. And we see what their output is. Well, this candidate puts out a 5. This candidate puts out a 0. This candidate puts out a 1. This candidate puts this out, which, you know, if I was like super prepared, I totally would have had that. But I'm not. So 3 times the cube root. Where is my cube root? Oh, goodness. I'm not finding my cube root. I know it's here. Okay. Getting an easy one. Getting the easy calculator all. Okay. 3 times the cube root of 9 minus 6. So, let's try that again and make sure that that's right. Times 3 minus 6. Yeah, it's like 0.24. Okay, so turns out that candidate didn't give us an output that we liked, right? Or an output that mattered. So which candidates gave us the biggest output? Which candidate has the largest output? It would be this candidate right here, -1. So our max is 5 and our minimum is 0. So F max equals 5. That's the biggest output we could get. And our F min is 0.